Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Mastering the Drop, a real view of recovery. I'm just so excited. Just Rebecca's back. And I just always love sharing our conversations that we have frequently with you all. And so today, we're going to be just having one of those really open conversations that we have frequently about, the different providers, the different services, and the different things that we actually need, want, and find benefit in when we're talking with people about their recovery journey, and how, we truly are always working to put together that unique, very authentic version for whoever it is that we're speaking to or working with, or what, just completely based on their needs. And I know that we both have like our bullet points of ones that we want to share. So I wanted to start really quick with for any of you clinicians that are listening today, I do want to invite you. I don't care what state you live in. It doesn't matter where you live, because we are actually opening the doors, due to the affiliation with NADAC. But the Katie conference is happening next month in August, and it is going to be virtual this year. So we are actually offering complimentary access to the conference. If you need CEUs, there is a fee, but you can reach out to me and we can get you signed up. I do have some very special seats for people that need CEUs that I can get you signed up for free, but there is only 7. So if you need CEUs and you'd like to come and see what we're going to be all about at the conference this year, great. I can tell you I am doing a course that I'm super excited about, and that is about effective discharge planning, which is also one of the reasons why Rebecca and I have been having these conversations, because there are other providers, there are other things out there that aren't necessarily part of our evidence-based practices and modalities that are, yes, proven to be beneficial and work. However, don't fill all those gaps, right? Because we talk about all the time the nutrition. I mean, come on, opiate addicts and alcoholics, like whatever you want to call yourself, right? Like we have sugar cravings, and sometimes those sugar cravings don't even appear in the form of refined sugar. Sometimes it's, the carbs, and those carbs convert to sugar. But anyway, so there are providers that we can hook you up with. Like I just, Dr. Melissa Belizon, you know her, right? You've met her. Yeah. She actually just joined joined forces. We're doing a, joint venture where she is making herself available to my clients to go over things like supplements and holistic methods that you can utilize to help decrease those sugar cravings, hot flashes, whatever it is, physical body pain that you go through, in withdrawal, all kinds of things. Like there's all kinds of things that we always are wanting to make sure that we're connecting with, right providers. For myself, I hooked up with a women's group that was more about giving each other a safe, transparent space where you could just go in and just genuinely be you and get love and feedback from people just like you. Mm-hmm. And for me, that was beneficial, along with going to school, and really being able to ask professors their take on, some of the science behind what happened to me and my addiction. So, it's not cookie cutter. And so we have to really be thinking outside the box and being prepared to connect people.
I think that's great that you're connecting with other professionals, and you're it's not necessarily, you can obviously segue your clients right into that professional's path, which kind of takes the guesswork out of it, which a lot of that guesswork is what gets in our way, especially when we're in a good momentum of recovery. You can refer those people or suggest them, but it's really up to the person and you as the professional making it that much easier for them to do that. I mean, it really is a full continuum of care. And I think that I mean, a lot of people are they're doing that now because, we're just back to the patient or the client is responsible, obviously, for their own physical, mental, emotional well-being. But we all have to still understand that we are 12 steps ahead of the person that we are providing services for. That's why we're doing it. So, I know a lot of conglomerates have become managed care, which is hard to deal with. I mean, you can only go here, you can only do this, and so that's so nice that services like yourself are so individualized, and you are picking kind of the top tier of people and connecting them with your program, for everyone to just transition.
I think it's just so important because we can all make referrals, right? We can all say we're partners, whatever. I just want to go here, because in my program, we talk about life balance, and we create that outline, right? What it looks like, what it means to each individual, right? Like spirituality is defined different for every single person, but that's not to say that I'm somebody that's going to be. And I was actually talking to anybody that's been around a while. I was actually talking to Bethany, and she's been around Turning Leaves for a really long time. But in talking about in the sexuality piece, where she went with that after the work that we did together, right, and after doing work with clients inside the Turning Leaves systems and programs, and then realizing in her own continued journey in recovery, some of those things. So she went out and started connecting in different ways. And for her, focusing in that spirituality piece as it spoke to her was super important, right? So, it's about looking at those things. There's people I was speaking to, a brand new client the other day, lovely, lovely woman who is, the epitome of a trauma survivor who was a successful mom, raising 5 amazing, beautiful, wonderful women that are now, adults, but is now the epitome poster child of empty nest. And what's my purpose? And what do I do now? And then, and now it's a pandemic. So now I'm just going to drink all the time, and then, so being able to say, okay, we're going to have all these different areas, like recreation, like what do I even like to do? What kind of hobbies do I like? I have no idea. Like I've been a mom the majority of my life, or a wife, or, a corporate worker, right? Which is why I love the Lead Up platform, right? So for Lead, we have.
And that's just kind of, just switching gears just a little bit, but that's a recreational piece that you are helping people kind of fit themselves into. I, on my end, do that in I guess a more outreach fashion. I have the recovery softball and the golf outings, and we're building these teams, and all these people are in recovery. The coaches are in recovery. A lot of the people that are in the position of team leader on the roster are from nonprofit agencies, but they also, they work in the platform of behavioral health. But in this retrospect, this is their recreation. So, we don't talk about recreation enough because, there's 24 hours in a day. And I mean, that's a lot of hours to be alone, be isolated. Even if you have a career, I mean, a lot of times, your career, everybody's going to, the local, spot to, decompress. And you can't go and just, have a glass of wine and do those things. I mean, if you're in a great spot where you feel, that you're comfortable with that and you're strong enough to do that, everybody's recovery is different, it's individualized. But that's also really testing some limits. And, I mean, it's just, I think if you have something else to do to put your energy into, like Leap, or you really do feel fulfilled.
Right. And I think if I can piggyback on all of this, like this is what the things that you're talking about are a large part of my passion behind creating, the work. Like I remember early on, having conversations with my husband. And
Mm-hmm.
it was, where we lived, we didn't even have an AA meeting where we lived at the
Oh,
time. There wasn't even one in my city.
wow.
Right. And so, I had to be an advocate, and I had to go find something that would work for me or serve the purpose. Right. So, you know, I think this is a good place to at least plant that seed that coaches like myself are good people to have on your team, even if you have meetings in your area or whatever. But to be that either that sidekick, that plus one that you invite to events to help you learn how to be in atmospheres where, because come on, are you ever not going to go to a restaurant again? Because every restaurant, there's going to be somebody sitting down drinking alcohol, right? But to go on these events with you, to go to these places, with my clients, I don't even usually need to go with them. It's kind of a deal we have. We create like this system, whether it's on the phone, in the ear, kind of thing, like I'm there with you, like I'm hearing you. Or if it's just that, having that emergency, companionship. But we create that plan. And in that plan is how you're going to exit that social, whatever it is, that recreational, whatever, because not all communities have sober softball. Not all communities have, recovery softball and, all the things, right? Whatever you were talking
Yeah.
about, golf and whatnot. Not all communities have a recovery community. And
Yeah,
if they
that's
do,
true.
not always a very big one. Like in my
Yeah.
community here that I'm in now, it's super small. So it's hard, like I had this conversation in group the other day, and there I would half of them, raise their hands and saying that they wouldn't refer me because then they'd have to, like, but people would know, right? Like, I'm not going to refer you to somebody because then people would know, because it's such a small community. And so when you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about other business professionals inside this community raising their hand and saying that they're working with me on their recovery lifestyle, I don't want people to know that about me. I'm a business professional, right?
Yeah.
So, we always have to be thinking outside the box and how we can create fun, invigorating, distracting, redirecting type activities, whether they're social, recreational, developmental, spiritual.
Yeah. It's just another way to kind of take back ownership of a stigma that is still there. We really have to remind people that, you know, the poster person of, being an addict, or of drugs and alcohol just isn't the same person. I mean, you're not going to look at a poster of someone who is 8 months pregnant with a bottle of vodka in her hand and, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but
Yeah.
that's happening too. You're not going
Yeah.
to look at someone with a suit and a tie on who, has the Clark Kent glasses and, is on his iPhone in the elevator, and that's not going to be on your poster. My ultimate goal is to create a marketing platform with all of those people
Wouldn't it be
on
great?
this poster, and if someone takes it from this, you and I, we know they
Yeah.
listen
It
and
started
they heard
here.
it here first.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I think that every one of those people, the housewife, the mother, the soccer coach, they all need to be on this poster, and it all needs to say something generic, like, oh yeah, well, we relate, what's one thing we all have in common? All these people that look like they don't have anything in common, and the diversity of it too. I see pamphlets all the time, and I see people that look like me because their ethnicity, I think they are, but I don't ever see someone from a different nationality or a different color or a different, and I know people are really, it's a touchy subject, and people don't want to talk about it. They don't even want to, they don't know what words are right. I don't even know what words are right. And I work in this
Yeah,
field at the top level of this field. And, you know, I just kind of am transparent about it, and anytime I see a group that is very, I call it bland, not a lot of like crayons in that box. I'm like, what's going on? You're not really talking to, people in need here. So I think that that's a big thing, and this culture is changing, but it takes these conversations and it takes us setting up platforms to get that to, that stigma to be released.
I love this because you're right. We all have a common thread and everybody has a something. And I don't care if it's the gym. I don't care if it's shopping at Target. I don't care if it's people pleasing, overbooking your calendar, finding your self-worth, you know, we'll bring in today, the Olympics, right? Like all the pressure, like to perform.
Yeah.
We as a species, have this need or pressure to perform. And then as the bystanders, of course we're watching, right? And you're either, if you're the kicker on the football team, you're either winning that game for everybody or you're losing that game for everybody. And that's pressure. And so we have to, I think, in and of itself, in that is an addiction. It's I need that validation. I need, and then I suffer when I don't get that need fulfilled, right? And so it's not a lot of difference. I know everybody's probably rolling their eyes at me going, that's so much different than an opiate addiction. But it's really, I mean, we're not talking about levels of severity here. We're just talking about process behavioral and chemical addictions all can heal in the same fashion.
Yeah.
Right.
There's the term workaholic came about because that term is put into place. I mean, I know it myself. You and I have talked about
it affects your families negatively. It affects your every other aspect of your life. The 14 categories of life balance that we work on, right? Like it affects that whole thing. If your sole focus is just work and you get all of your worth and value and validation, if you get it all through work and nothing and nowhere else, then it doesn't come from inside you. It comes from all of the external praise, right? Again, I always end up back at the locus of control theory, but right.
But the recreation there too is good because you're still kind of weaning yourself off of those things, but you're putting yourself into a different group who may not know who you are, and you're just allowed to be a member and maybe not the organizer. I see that a lot. And I think that there is an interaction that not everybody has to be in recovery to be in those groups, because that is the way we break down the stigma. But you said something that I want to hit on, because you were talking about, your coaching and how important it was to remember that, you are going to go to a restaurant again. You are going to be in, these certain types of atmospheres again, shopping, doing these things. And I've really never put that together. I know I talk to you at times when I'm out and I'm doing things, and maybe I would otherwise be alone by myself, lonely, not, maybe having some kind of thought going on, and I don't even realize it, but, I reach out, we're colleagues and, friends, but I always and then I always think, oh, I always recommend you to other people because of those very situations, so I think that is so smart. It takes me back to that. Do you remember that movie Hitch? I mean, I just have to say this because it always reminds me of that. And it wasn't like that guy it wasn't an addiction thing, but it's like that, like in your ear, helping you create, a little bit of a different persona or whatever, but you have somebody backing you up. But when it came down to it, your real person was the best person that everybody could see. But it's okay to still have a companion there to help you build that platform and that confidence back. And a coach is so great to have. I mean, there's yourself, and then on the male side, there's Harry Dennison. I always want to introduce you to him, and I think he'd be great for you to have on because he does
I would
this
love
with
that.
men, women, families, and all in between.
Sure.
And I call him a gym rat because, he goes to the gym constantly, and that is his church. But he creates so many relationships there that carry outside of there. You think that's the most confident place people could be, but the lack of self-confidence in
Oh no,
a
yeah.
gym is immense. And he taught me that, and he coaches those people on how to just go out and, you know,
Well, yeah,
um,
if you think about that, I mean, male athletes are among the leaders in eating disorder, male eating disorders, right?
yeah,
Body image and body dysmorphia. And there's again, we're looking to change ourselves, or utilize this heavy weightlifting and this bulking up and this massiveness to help us feel okay in our own skin, to rid us of our insecurities, to
hmm,
take away that social anxiety or those feelings of lacking self-worth. And I know I was an athlete. When I was in my body dysmorphia, my body image issues, believe me, I was working out. I don't want to talk about it, but
yeah. But I'm just saying, you could. That's a space where.
yeah,
I mean, I think people get this idea in their head, like it has to be male to male or female to male. It's whatever your preference is. But even yourself, we don't know who you're coaching. You could be coaching one of those guys, that is big body buff guy in the gym or on the beach, but doesn't have that confidence necessarily to maybe wants to start dating again or wants to, just get himself out there to go bowling, or I don't know. But
just a
that's why
place
a coach
sometimes.
is so important.
I think it's just important that you find the coach that's going to speak the language that you can understand. And we
Yeah.
were talking about
Yeah.
this in my group on Monday night, because right now on my group, we're working on cultivating our new language so that we can be inviting our environment to see our new lifestyle, our new way of experiencing our environment, and in a sober fashion, right? And
Hmm.
in a fashion that is without all of the old attitudes and behaviors, right? Because the process and behavioral addictions are the underlying issues that we also really need to get, all of it all has to go together. But there's somewhere along the line that, these things started happening. But anyway, we were talking about that language, right? So I'm an acquired taste as far as a coach goes. Not everybody can handle me. Not everybody can handle my energy. Not everybody wants to engage the way that I teach best, right? But because I'm a really good case manager and assessor, I will connect people to people. I mean, I've sent people to Pat, right?
Hmm.
And
Oh
because
yeah.
it wasn't a good fit for me. Like, I wasn't going to speak these people's language. Like, here you go, right? But
Yeah.
you have to be willing to reach out and know who you can reach out to, right? You can't just go, okay, I'm going to treatment and here's the one I want to go, like, here's the closest one, or here's the one that's right outside my town, so I'll be away from my town and everybody else will feel comfortable. It's not about the location of the treatment program, right? Look, Rebecca and I work closely together. She's in Ohio. I mean, I'm on the central coast of California. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Doesn't
I think
matter.
you
Like,
have the
we're
better
going,
half of that, but
we're, I'd have to agree, but only because I really like, the weather. Um, but we collaborate, and we're going to the same events, and we're networking with the same people, or we try to. And when we're not, then we're working to keep each other connected in that way by supporting each other. But you have to realize that a recovery lifestyle is not something that's just going to happen because you go to a 30-day residential inpatient treatment program. That's just step one. This is literally just step one. And so what I want you guys to know, right? Like, I know that Rebecca and I have these conversations a lot, is if you are one of somebody that's going to be going to that level of care because their level of severity is that high, help them advocate for themselves to have a discharge plan started at intake, right? Because we have to start identifying what we're going to be releasing to, because in 30 days, we're not going to get very far. We can't address trauma, right? I mean, we've had that conversation with Amy. And you can't really even get in there. You can't even do it EMDR, really, unless the person lives in your local area and you can retain them as a client. But you know, so you want to find somebody like Rebecca, who's an outreach coordinator that can actually help you find the right program for you, even if you have to go from one coast to the other.
Yeah.
For that. Even if you have to connect with a coach afterwards that doesn't live in your area. Like, none of my clients, well, I shouldn't say none of my clients, a large portion of my clients don't live in my area. And even the ones that are close are a good 45 minutes out. Like we can spend so much more time with each other in the digital world. But, I think there's yoga, and there's medical professionals who really understand and support the recovery process, right? That will go that extra mile and find you something that's going to be safe for your liver as it's healing and repairing from the extensive amount of years of alcohol use. Like your GP might not even be the right GP for you during this period. Like, we don't know, but you want to have people that know how to help you discern.
Yeah, and I think that what we do also really well is stay on, a lot of different subjects, obviously, because we have to, because a full continuum of care is a large circle, and it's a large infinity symbol of going out and coming back in. It's much like the circulatory system, honestly. But, we're always on the cusp of the newest things coming in, what's the next step, and a lot of the things that I'm working towards, definitely, and I know you're working towards, are the next step in this. There are a lot of steps, and today we've talked about, the recreational piece and the coaching piece. There's the financial piece. That's huge. I'm putting myself in that platform for sure. Maybe not announce on this today, but I'm definitely thinking
well, we definitely want to talk about that. You were telling me some about that the other day, and I think it's important because I hear a lot of people all the time, I can't afford to. And so we will have, even if it's a special episode, just before that, because I think it's important that you can come and teach them, how things can be, how sometimes you can afford things that you don't think you can afford, or how you can get coverage for things that you don't think you can, or who you can trust to take care of that for you even better.
Exactly. There are companies out there that are doing that coaching piece very well, and they're doing it from a foundation of having the experience because they were at one time, the client or the patient. And those are the people that I trust, and not that there are people out there that are clinical and otherwise that are not in recovery, but that's just my preference. I like to hear, the foundation story and why people got to where they are. And maybe they have a family member, or maybe they, there's usually someone that is attached that is in recovery. And that's just who the people I seem to, I guess, flock to, and support. But I know that there are many, many people out there that offer, great things, but being on, or being in the midst of, all of this, this, good professional gene pool, we kind of get the first look at a lot of, new things. There are just so many avenues to go down. So I hope that people keep tuning in and listen. And I always advise people when they reach out to me, off of this platform, comment, share, or send an email, send a text message, send a message. Like you said, we're in the digital age. There's no way, shape, or form that they can't get in touch with you, in some fashion, or myself. And it's a 2-second, click of a button to get your opinion out there, professional or non-professional, your question, and be a guest. Being a guest is the best way to set yourself up for, the best information, because then people will, they'll resonate and it'll resonate and they'll reach back out to you. And, we're all just trying to support one another.
Well, and I think, just again, bringing that and circling back around to your comment way a long time ago, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes ago, but, realizing that we all have a recovery story, right? And so we all have a different version to tell, and different things that were useful and beneficial to us, right? Like my version's different than your version. And our underlying stories are different, but the general focus going forward is to reduce the stigma, right? And to show that. And I think that's why I love talking about the process, behavioral, and chemical addictions all together, to show that we're not all so much different from each other, right? Mm-hmm. Like the overeater or the restrictor. And I always like to go to food because it's the least intrusive, most common denominator, because we all need fuel, right?
Right.
So it's less offensive to most people's ears when I use food as that example. So whether you're the overeater or the extreme restrictor, or just an addict of, right, like somebody that has like a true, chemical addiction to, say, refined sugars, wheat, flour, whatever, whatever it might be, right? So there's like this whole big thing, but it all centers around our relationship with what should just be our fuel. And so I don't care, what city, state, country, region, nation, whatever you come from, we all need food.
Yeah.
Right. We all need food. We all need water. We all need sleep. And so we all have these, these issues. And I will talk to the people that, I'll tell you what, man, people will come and they'll say, I'm a healthy eater. Nothing's wrong with my dietary practices. That works well for me. And sure, that can be true. However, I will tell you, even the people with the cleanest of dietary practices often have some refinement that still needs to be made. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because they're not truly listening to what their body is telling them that it needs. They just know, like, this is the way I do it. It worked well for me, way back here. Now, 5 years later, they haven't made any tweaks or adjustments or whatever. Anyway, and so sometimes there's that. So we all have the issue. I'm not going to go on to a whole nutritional, or a relationship with food situation, but this is the thing, guys, like we all have recovery needs, and there are professionals that specialize in all the different, the areas, or people like Rebecca and I who are really good at putting together teams that handle the full continuum, right? Because for me, it's the now what's next. Mm-hmm. So whether you're coming home from recovery or you've been in recovery for some time and you feel like, okay, great, I've done the 12 steps, now what? Or, I've done my treatment program, like I'm still not fulfilled with my life. Like we can take a look at that because I know what you're missing. You don't. But, yeah, or if you're somebody that doesn't assess for the level of severity that requires you to go to some of these other treatment levels, like that's the majority of my population, are the people that can recover right at home, because it's really just about working on their perception or perspective of how they're experiencing their environment.
Yeah.
And then
I have soon coming out here, the podcast I talked to you about. I'm definitely going to get you on there, but we talked about what to name it, and I said, I don't really know what to name it, because a lot of people in the recovery community call me B. I love bees. I have the tattoo of a bee. My kids talk about it, and it's one of those things that's it's just my thing, but I didn't really want to put that in there because it was just a little bit too personal and too intimate. So I said, I don't really know, but what I do is I take myself to where people are at, the person is at, and that's usually ground zero. So I said, let's just call it ground zero. That's not where we have to start. Ultimately, and when you're in addiction, they say, oh, you're not going to get better until you hit rock bottom. And I said, no, rock bottom is nothing but a concrete trampoline to an addict. So that analogy sometimes needs to go out to the window or out the window. Let's just kind of meet at ground zero rather than rock bottom and build a ladder together.
Because you don't have to hit some bottom.
I don't believe that.
Just say, you know what, something's not serving me in my life anymore, right? Like it can just no longer serve you. Doesn't mean that just because, and you can still need help for that. Even if you have the wherewithal of saying, this is not serving me, I'm not really happy with my relationship with alcohol, or my, I'm feeling attached to my prescription medication. I'm feeling overly reliant to the Xanax, or whatever it is for you. You don't have to wait till, your life becomes, completely unmanageable. It can be, I don't feel like this is serving me. It's not bringing me the peace, joy, comfort, or relief that I was hoping for, and still need help to figure out how to turn it around. Right.
Yeah. Reach out before you get there. I think that's another part of the stigma that, you can, even if maybe you drink one glass of wine a day, maybe you are, you're cycling too much, or you're running, or there's a thing, or the food thing, or maybe you're just feeling like it's becoming a little bit obsessive rather than addiction. You can still reach out to professionals that can coach you, and really kind of beat that before you get into super bad habits. So,
that's what I say all the time. Those habits that are holding you hostage.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Let's get rid of them.
Yeah.
At the LEAP conference, I'm going to be talking about why living without habits is the way to go. Because we don't have to have habits. Habits are seated in pressure.
Yeah. That's a really good one. I definitely, it's not talked about enough, because they're almost made like into a quirky joke of, someone's persona. And a lot of times, that joke is really serious behind closed doors. Or getting there. So I just think that it's just good to reach out and to communicate, and no matter, what space you're in, that's why we do this, so people can see. And especially the barrier of the states, you are in California, I'm in Ohio, and I know I was like sending you pictures yesterday of like my hometown and my area, because it's beautiful, and I think a lot of those things I took for granted, but I also think that people take for granted that you can get so far away from your residential spot in a digital format too. By meeting people, and so it's just a good, we always say recovery community, but like you said, you can be recovering from, or need to recover from anything.
I have clients in Hawaii, and it's, it's just so awesome, and other states as well, but it's even the time difference. I'd say, East Coast can be a little challenging, but not really, because the way of living in New York versus California is a little bit different. So it almost just the way of living almost equals itself out. I had a client in Delaware not too long ago, and it just, the way of living just equalized out our time that we would get together. I mean, East Coast, you guys all eat late.
I mean, we do that in the Midwest too, because the Midwest it's either super early or super late because of, we have a large agricultural, society. Yeah. And so therefore you're either doing it to one extreme or to the next, and just your whole life is about, blue collar and working hard and, right. And it's not everyone, but it is the persona of the Midwest, and it is true. And we really do take a lot of pride in those things. But if you come here, you also better be prepared, because you're going to get homemade bread and mashed potatoes and a lot of large meats and buffets and things like that thrown at you. I mean, that's why you vacation places and then you go back home and get it too. So I think that, we all
I'm going to come there one day, and I'm going to test out your biscuits and gravy, because I'll tell you what, Kansas hand down has probably the best, Kansas, Missouri, that I've had. But biscuits and gravy, man, with a side of bacon. That's
probably true. I would
biscuits and gravy, side of bacon. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Maybe an egg.
I would say here it's more of a mashed potato, like roast beef or roasted chicken. Like we have some and homemade noodles. Like we have a Yoder family noodles that are just like we should send each other boxes. We should put together boxes and send each other what
I'm getting hungry.
Are. Yeah, it would be good. It'd be great.
Well, so I don't know. I almost forgot we were live there for a minute.
I know, that's just part of the learning of it. And that's what I want people to get out of this. They always ask me, they're like, you're so busy, like yourself, you're so busy doing this, doing that, like, but you take time out to do that. And I'm like, well, one, it's not really time out. It's still part of a profession. It's a very professional platform. I said, but two, I mean, it's part of recovery, and it's part of awareness and advocacy. And, it is also part of me being unwilling to get on these platforms before, because I wasn't confident. I mean, how I am behind the scenes. And it was,
I am so proud of you. You come on here like no problem anymore. I remember, I think it was when we first met, you were like, I'm used to being behind the scenes. I'm like, that's okay. Just show up. You're coming anyway.
Yeah. And it really has helped me. I mean, unfortunately, I've taken advantage of all of the processes because I'm not a client, but it's one of those things you don't think about, but it is a way for me to also say, this is how I was, and this is where we're at now. And I think that a lot of, your relationships will get like that, if you can get that close, and that is really a kind of a coaching relationship, Absolutely. I mean, so I think it would be great for more people who in every platform to jump on. And I love being in the audience and like sending my comments in, and
I know, I don't know if anybody else knows this. I know you notice. I mean, I know you know this, that I don't pay attention to the comments while we are live, because right. I would be all distracted, and I'd be like answering questions live, and it would be very distracting. So, I know that I have that capability of doing that, but I prefer not to, because I like to be present. And that's part of, my whole journey, is not feeling like I have to be everything to everybody all at once. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, and being able to, go, okay, I can go to those next. Like I have all my time blocks. This is me filling a space for me. This is feeling part of my spirituality, right? Like giving, my morals, my ethics, my integrity, like being able to give freely of the things that I know, the things that I know to be true, or at least to plant seeds so that people know that they can be approachable, right? Like I'm just a real person, guys.
Yeah.
Just a real person. I'm just a wife, a mother of 5, a grandmother of almost 5. November 18th is the due date.
Oh.
And you know, I have 2 dogs. If you can hear in the background, they're barking, whatever. I'm just a real person. I'm a real person who had a 30-year relationship with alcohol that, you know, tried a couple times to make it stick, recovery stick, and it didn't. But you know what? My bottom wasn't a bottom. Like somebody asked me recently, what was your bottom? I had to even like think about my sobriety date. Like I was one of those people that just said, this isn't serving me any longer, right? Like I was having a physiological addiction that I had never experienced before. Like before it was like, okay, my drinking's out of control, reel it in, right? And that was, and so, but that was all pre-25. After that, you know, anyway, you don't need to go into my story, but I'm just a real person that, you know what, got to a point where my physical body was, I couldn't control its need for something outside of me. And as a control freak, it wasn't serving me. It wasn't sitting well. And it was extremely uncomfortable. But, you know, just a real person who's had to overcome, you know, bad issues with their relationship with food and all the things, you know, so, you know, getting on here and being able to just feel that spirituality piece of being able to give freely, kindly, and generously of things that I know, things that I've experienced, things that I've moved through, things that I've studied, right? Like 13 credentials, whatever. Like I'm a knowledge junkie, but, but, you know, to be able to give that freely, but this is also filling my social aspect of my day today. Like this is a social get together because this is my friend Rebecca, and I mean, like we started chatting yesterday about coming together today. Like we've been talking for 48 hours, and you know, texting and sharing pictures and all that stuff. So this is like a social space for me. Like this is super fulfilling for my life. Without this, I would be so heavily weighted in the work part, right? The admin, the behind the scenes, and on and on. And anyway, we all got to work on that whole, the life balance. And anyway, I could go on and on and on with a sermon, but I don't need to. Right? Like we have people, you know, I want you guys to know, like, yes, detox is necessary for some, not necessary for everybody. Residential treatment, necessary for some, not for everybody. Right? It's not necessary for everybody. And intensive outpatient, great service, or partial hospitalization, great. You know, but you got to know when it's a great thing for you, because then you're still going home at night. So is partial hospitalization going to be an effective way for you if you know, if you're just going to go home? Anyway, there I've got, you know, I've worked in every single level of care. I'm sure Rebecca has also, and if not, has been affiliated with every single level of care. And they're all great, but they're not all for everybody. And everybody doesn't need all of them. And they don't all need to happen in the same order. And we have to be our own advocate. And so you have to learn how to be your own advocate. Otherwise, your insurance company is going to tell you what you can and can't do. And we don't want them telling us, you know, how to run our health, mental, physical, or emotional. They don't know us. And, you know, have they even like studied the issues that we're experiencing? Anyway, that's a whole different episode.
Yeah, completely a different episode.
Like, right. But what I do know to be 100% true is that we all need somebody to help us navigate our life. Because if we were able to function appropriately in our life, we wouldn't be considering any of these other levels of treatment or social support systems of NA and AA, right? Like they're great, and a lot of people get sober through them, but they are still a social support. Any way you look at it, it's still a social support. But we all need somebody to help us in our life. So then you've got all these providers that have guidelines and restrictions, right? There's a reason I'm not a licensed clinical practitioner, right? There's a reason, and it was very intentional and very purposeful, right? And that's not to say I want to bend the rules, because I absolutely honor ethics. I mean, I'm sorry, HIPAA. right? I absolutely honor HIPAA, and I'm very, very passionate and adamant about the ethical practicing, right? I carry malpractice insurance, all those things. However, I didn't want to be bound by state line. I didn't want to be like only be able to see somebody in the confines of an office. Like I want to be able to get out there with y'all in the grocery store if you can't seem to manage to not go down the alcohol aisle. Right. If you're local, and if you're not local, that's fine. Cause I'll just hop on your FaceTime and you can just take me with you.
That's
right?
funny that
Believe
you
me, I've
say
done
that because I actually still do that quite often just because I am, and a big part of me is marketing and networking, and the way that they market alcohol and drinks and the colors, the vibrancy, the it's very, I've learned that it's very enticing, just the, I mean, even to go down the aisles, that part of the grocery store has a nice wooden floor and it's set up parallel. It's not set up like, boom, boom, boom on
Right.
a streamline, and it's everything leads out into something like a big, tropical,
Whatever. Yeah, exactly.
end cap or whatever they call it.
Display.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant. It is brilliant and it's legal. So therefore, whoever partakes is, more power to them. But it puts me in a place of reminding me where a person could be that is very new in this space, and
Sure.
their mouth could literally water at the sight of the new, you know, wine cooler or wine or beer. Or I mean, I love the taste of beer. I've loved, like, to mow the grass and have a barbecue and crack open a,
Give me a beer. Right.
I mean, like that was the thing, and there's a lot of commercials and marketing set upon that. But now it's a seltzer. It's okay. it's
It's a seltzer.
still.
I like the Perrier grapefruit, pink grapefruit.
Oh,
It gives me a little bit of that
that.
bitterness, right? It gives me a little bitterness.
Yeah, it kind
Um,
of puts your brain in that spot that's not, you're not mimicking or tricking, but you're allowed to like things.
you're
There's a
allowed to like
reason.
bubbles and
Yeah, you're
bitterness.
allowed to
You're allowed
do
that.
that. But I have to tell you, I do walk down those aisles, and I do. Sometimes it helps me brainstorm on how to build a marketing campaign for the other side, to know how
Well,
this side
okay, so I'm
lives.
glad you brought that up because I've been kind of doing a little bit of taste testing, very little, but a little bit of taste testing on some of these brands that are coming out now that
Yeah,
are, all natural brews, right? Like Elixir, Beterra.
like the
And if I'm saying it wrong,
non-alcoholic.
guys, whatever, I'm sorry. Shirley has come out with a non-alcoholic wine.
See, I don't know much of, I don't know
I
much about
I've
them,
never
but I
even
think
paid
that
attention
that's,
for
yeah.
8.5 years since the day I quit drinking. I just never really looked back, right? Like, but now I'm like, kind of paying
I think that
attention.
space has grown for us though because of the culture changing.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, great. Now, but where's our aisle at the grocery store? Because, and here's the deal, and we're totally off track now, but that's okay.
Completely, but
It doesn't matter. But
it is the
because here's the
rabbit
deal,
hole.
where's our, because you can't actually fill a grocery store. I get it. Online sales are, it's easier. It's easier for the manufacturers. It's easier for the distribution, whatever. But, I don't want to order it and get it a week and a half later or a week later. and then, it's I don't want it to be like this monumental event of whoo, my very special, pretty non-alcoholic, whatever came. I'm like, I'm gonna keep going to the store and buying San Pellegrino and
And
Perrier. And
that never even occurred to me. I don't even know why,
it's
but
not
that's
it's
something
not
we're ever having this.
accessible. It's
Well, that we're having
orderable.
this conversation because so many people that are isolating are ordering these things, and if you're if you are kind of diving into that and ordering something non-alcoholic and someone who doesn't pay attention sends you the alcohol beverage, who do you call? What do you do?
Right.
So that really, that segue worked out.
Right. Well, because, okay, and I have been served at restaurants, right? You order the Virgin Mojito and it comes back, you take a drink and all the reward centers go off in your brain, right? As an addict, you have the choice to make right there. Do I give it back? Because nobody will know if I don't open my mouth, right? Like, right. So you got to have that, you know, the little devil on your shoulder, right? I always send it back. But because it happens. It happens.
Yeah, we have to take.
It's about learning what you're going to do with that.
I think the conversation reroutes back to taking responsibility for our own recovery, but then also knowing when and knowing that it's okay to reach out, to have someone dial a friend. You know, I really
this thing goes off.
Yeah, I really do think that that's kind of an amazing thing, and I know that we are kind of off topic, but that's how this works. You know, you're living in a lifestyle where things come up and life is what it is, and you know, it's just we're in a spot where we see those things, we pick them out, we're growing from them and helping to teach others. But I think that once somebody goes through a program, you know, with yourself or with the one of us, they get there too. And it's just building a whole new platform.
Or just who we connect them with. I mean, I had a call the other day, lovely young lady who's coming back after living out of state. And I think it might have been not your area, but that direction. I don't even remember where she said, but she was driving across country because she was moving back. Anyway, you know, and she has been sober for a while, but it had been recommended to her that she looked into some trauma therapy. Mm-hmm. And, you know, whereas I talked to her a lot, you know, and offered her that ability to have a consultation so that I could match her more effectively. Yeah. I still also, because she was driving, so I forwarded her a bunch of links and a bunch of information, but I still forwarded her direct access to trauma therapists in the area where I know she's moving back to, so that she can be connected. And by the time she gets here, because clearly she was, you know, seeking, right? Like if she never calls me again, that's fine. Like at least I connected her with somebody.
Yeah, that's great. That's amazing. That's such a good analogy of what we also do on the flip side of this. You know, it's not a singular point of monetary value. It's definitely a lifestyle. And when someone calls on us, you know that I help people get into treatment every single day that do not have commercial insurance. You know, I help people that have commercial insurance. I work with unions. I work with EAPs. I work with a lot of different people. But they're also, you know, there's a lot of people that don't have commercial insurance, especially now. And so the call for them, an 800 number that you find on Google, is going to put you everywhere but where you need to go. So I give my number out to call centers, especially, I mean, there is one in Los Angeles and or Orange County, and her and I work together constantly. I mean, I can't believe how many calls that she gets, and she doesn't have to forward them on because that's not really part of what they're paying her to do, because they only take commercial or they're out of network. But she's, you know, she has someone in her life that is in recovery and some people that are not yet there yet. And she calls me every single day, and we're helping people every single day. So that person, you know, that young lady that you did that for, that comes back full circle. And those are the fulfilling moments of what we do and why we do this. And it just, I love it. I guess it is a very social thing to get on these platforms and talk about those things. And you know, but that's how we support one another too, because we're also in a career, we're making a living, and, you know, people, you know, having clients and things, it pays the bills too, but you're worth it. You know, you're worth the time you spend with the people you spend it with. You know, and for them, it is an investment into their life, their lifestyle, their future, their kids' future, their family's future, their employer or employee's future. It's an investment that's solid and, you know, never goes away. So
That's right.
you know,
That's right.
but
You are amazing. I suppose we should probably let all these folks go.
yeah, they're like these two.
I know, right? Like, and then it's also my favorite thing just to have, you know, especially towards the end of the month, having you here so that because I've got all these things that have gone on and all, la, la, la. But anyway, I totally appreciate you coming in here. Don't hang up. I'm going to go ahead and stop the live. Rebecca's going to put all of her contact information in the comments below. I will, of course, drop mine. Really, my cell phone is the only number that I have. Feel free to send me a text message anytime. Let me know why you're reaching out. That's usually helpful, but it's the simplest, easiest way to get a hold of me. And yeah, we will talk with you guys again soon. I'll see you next week right here. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Bye.